All right. Let's continue. And let's just a few observations. Hacktivists are people who are motivated just because they believe in something. They'll do anything because they believe in it. Whatever they believe in, they'll global warming, I don't know, religion, whatever it happens to be. Cybercrime versus disorganised crime. You'll find that a lot of attacks are just opportunistic. People that just drive by, they just have a bit of curiosity. Whereas cybercrime tends to be much more organised, much more targeted. And this is because cyber criminals, they're increasingly like running a company. When you're in a company, you have cash flow, you have monthly cash flow, you want to see where your projections are, you want to see where your new lines of business are, you run it like a business. All right? So much more organised. And then at the next level, you have nation states attacking one another. And talk about it a bit more in a moment, but basically, nations have a bit of a choice. When they discover a vulnerability, they can keep it for themselves, or they can do a responsible disclosure. Anyone heard of what responsible disclosure is? I know what it is. Anybody? Yeah, you tell the vendor there's a problem, but you keep it quiet, and you give them whatever it is. I mean, Google 0 day gives 90 days, or you give some 3 months, 6 months to fix it. If you haven't fixed it, then I'll go public with it. And so the idea is there's a fix and there's a patch before you let it go. So relatively speaking, there's this sort of philosophical debate in government, and that is, when we discover a vulnerability, do we responsibly disclose it so it gets fixed and then everybody gets safer? Which means the bad guys get safer as well. Or do we keep the vulnerability so that we can attack other people's systems? All right, so there's this sort of ridiculous idea that if you want to attack the Russians, you hoard a stack of vulnerabilities so that you can attack the Russian systems. Because the Russians are also probably hoarding the vulnerabilities so they can attack US systems. Now, you can make everybody safer by disclosing it, or you can take the vulnerabilities and you weaponize it and you can use it for attacking someone else's system. And guess what governments like doing? They like weaponizing. This whole cyber warfare, it's better to be on the attack than on defense. So what happens is, when the government's in the market, it drives the vulnerabilities up. So you're a security researcher, you're a person, you discover a vulnerability in something, what do? You can responsibly disclose it for free, for nothing. Well, that doesn't get any money. You can actually go to a company who has a bug bounty, and some companies do have bug bounties, and they're really good. Okay, I'll give full marks. Apple has a bug bounty, Google, Netflix has a bug bounty, would you believe? Tesla, I mean, some of the companies, and the idea is, you find a problem, we'll reward you with it. Okay, now Apple, roll back a few years, find a vulnerability, tell them about it, they'll send you a legal document, right? They'll take you to court, they'll ban you as being a developer. Those days, well, there's still companies that are doing that. Now, if governments are in the market of buying vulnerabilities, then if you're a good guy, you can responsibly disclose, you go to bug bounty, or you can sell to some third party who's going to give you a bigger price. And there are companies like Zerodium that broker, that buy up vulnerabilities and give it to governments. So Zerodium has a business model where you subscribe to the Zerodium service. It's like several $1 million a year, and you get told the latest vulnerabilities. And guess what? Every major US department is our customers. And then when the vulnerability gets bought by a government, so from Zerodium, so let's suppose it's it's a way to attack some Java library, for example, gets turned into an attack tool, So you can use it on your bad guys. But the problem is, if that attack tool leaks out, the very next people who get hold of it are the cyber criminals. Now, cyber criminals have attack tools that can attack anybody at all. And some of the WannaCry virus, for example, that wasn't built by cyber criminals; it was built by governments. Just leaked into the cyber criminal world. Well, we see data breaches everywhere. There's like ongoing. Philosophically, the problem of data is that most companies see it as an asset. Collect, big. They don't see it as a toxic asset. So the way companies should be thinking about their data is the more data they have, the more chances they are exposed. That's not the way big data works. The reason is storage costs nothing. It costs nothing to collect data. So collect data, collect it, and maybe you've got a business case for it to actually abuse it or on-sell it. So the reason why is people collect far too much data, they can't secure it, and it gets broken into. The Office of Personnel Management, anyone hear about this? I think this was last year. Did you hear about this one? Anybody know?
Yeah, I was caught in it.
You were caught in it. What happened?
Worked for various US government departments as a contractor.
Okay, so what happened here is Office of Personnel Management, they kept a kind of very extensive dossier on all government employees, including their fingerprints and their eye scans and their driver's license number, their social security number, and this is very, very rich data, very, very rich identity data, and that was all stolen. It was broken into and stolen. And those credentials were then sold on the black market and all sorts of things there. It was very, very horrible. Just more generally, malpractice. So if you think about, say, Medicare, number of doctors ripping off Medicare, you'd be surprised. Let's just have a look just here in Australia. Anyone come across single touch payroll? Anyone heard of it? Anybody? So anybody? Single touch payroll? Okay, so what's happened in Australia? You have to pay your taxes. So you have to put your income tax in. That's called IITR, individual income tax return. There's also company tax return, partnership tax returns, da-da-da-da-da. And so you have to do mandatory reporting to government. Now, the problem is that the tax office learns about your income after the fact. It'll be your income for last year, or maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago if you're falling tax behind. And meanwhile, you have the Department of Social Security over here, or whatever they call themselves these days. They're dishing out money for the pensions and the single mum benefit and da-da-da-da. They're handing out all the benefits. And there are people working, and there are people claiming benefits. There are lots of people ripping off the system, right? To the tunes of billions of dollars. So the idea is that if a company was to report at the time they paid the employee to the tax office now has a real-time feed of whether people are earning an income. So if that same person now is also claiming a benefit, they can be cross-correlated. Right? That's what single-touch payroll is doing. And instantly $1 billion of fraud was stopped. Amazing. People should be doing the right thing, ripping off the government. Well, why? Why? Because they could. So in the case of Medicare, there are doctors that are putting in false claims, and there's even another generation of things which the government is looking at. Okay, so what happens is a company, you build a new business, right? Let's say it's a restaurant, okay? So you start your restaurant on 1st of July or in July. You run your business for a while. You don't pay superannuation. You don't pay income tax. You don't pay the GST. You simply pay everything on cash. And you shut your business down, basically, before the 30th of June. The company's gone away. So there are thousands of companies every year in Australia start up and disappear and don't pay any tax. Building companies, catering companies, you name it. And so what's the government want to do about this? Well, in Europe, what they've gone and done is they've equivalent single touch payroll for invoices. Every time a company receives an invoice or pays an invoice, you have to report it to the government. So that they can try to detect businesses, what they call Phoenix businesses, that pop up and disappear and not pay any taxes. So they're not paying any workers' compensation, they're not paying any superannuation, all the things that workers do. Anyway, just let you know that the government understands this problem and it's much bigger than you would think. Okay, crimeware. So basically, okay, so software, just generally speaking, software. Software has a unique property in that it captures knowledge. Okay, now just give you a bit of example. Let's see. So your name was Anne. Okay, so Anne's going to be my apprentice. I'm a safecracker. Okay, I've spent my entire career breaking safes. Right? I'm very good at it. I'm very skilled at it. Now Anne wants to be a safecracker, so I can bring her in as an apprentice, and over time I can teach her. I can teach her the skill of breaking safes, such that after a time she has an ability to break safes. All right? Now, long process. Software captures knowledge. So I'm a hacker. I know how to break into a bank. Let's call it the ANZ Bank, for argument's sake. I capture that in an attack tool, and now I give it to Anne. Anne knows nothing at all. She has no skill in breaking into banks, but she has ability. Software gives people ability. People without skill know ability. So, what this means is hundreds of man-years of crimeware, of how to run the business of crime. I mean, let's face it, if you buy an accounting package, you think about it, you're not buying a number cruncher. That's not what you're buying. You're buying hundreds of man-years of experience about running companies or running accounting. My mum, right, uses Xero, for example. She doesn't know anything about accounting, but she's pretty good at it. You know, she can do a balance sheet and she can do a cash flow analysis and pay all her invoices. She just, because software captures knowledge. Well, in bad guys' world, bad guys capture knowledge as well, and so hundreds of man-years can go into these attack tools and off you go, and you can buy them and you can rent them. I mentioned about people targeting. Just if you know a lot about a person, you can extort them in many ways. Just as a side, you know, Google knows more about your habits probably than you do, or your friend, or your mother, or anybody else. Who read 1984? Anybody that old? Right? 1984, this dystopia, this world. Okay, so if you said to George Orwell back in the 70s when he was writing 84, what's the worst possible thing to go wrong? And he'd say, oh, these big screens watching everybody. All right? And you said to him, no. In 40 years' time, people are going to wear a tracker. They're going to voluntarily buy it themselves. They're going to keep it charged themselves. And this tracker, not only is it going to track what you do, you're going to put incredibly personal and private information in this tracker about you. You go, no, that's nuts. That'll be nuts. That'd be science fiction. Well, that's what everybody does. And so with a mobile phone, you can tell an awful lot about you. For example, just by knowing this phone and other people's phones, an observer would know where I live, what I do every day, where I walk, who I sleep with, for example. There's a lot of affairs that have been broken by a mobile phone. Oh, by the way, you think your mobile phone is safe? Who's heard of a stinger? You want to know what a stinger is? Stingers. Yeah, there you go. So there's a fake mobile phone tower. Why? Because your mobile phone trusts anything that says, I'm a mobile phone tower. Right? You want to intercept anything that's going on a mobile phone? People type in as if it's secure. No, you're talking to a tower, but you don't know the tower's not eavesdropping on what you're doing. Oh, by the way, go to Alibaba, what, $800, buy your own stinger, off you go. There you go. Just take it along to any event. Whoa, have a look at what he's doing. It's fantastic. All right. Okay, I see the text get bigger, broader and better. Let's see, I'm not sure I'll go into too much detail here. Except to say that, remember I said anything that the good guys can do, the bad guys can leverage? So in the world is going automated. More and more things are automated. More and more things are centralized because you get efficiencies. All right. So if you look at the way the Russians attacked the Ukrainians, and they turned off the power grid. Now, in that particular example, there was like 20 different sub-power stations, and they sent 20 engineers out to go and manually restart it. Right? They were able to recover because the system was essentially manual. Now, as your power grid gets more and more centralized, you get more and more control for efficiencies, you get all the efficiencies. Now you get a single point of attack and a single point of failure. And so as systems become more and more and more computerized and more centralized, the juiciness for bad guys to take them over goes up and up and up. And that's what's happening to the world. So you look at power grids. They've got biometric databases. What does the government want to do? They're taking all the photos from various places, and they're all putting them in a big database, right? Because they want to do fraud detection, what have you. When you put everything in a big database, you just make this attack point much juicier. Anyway, that's the way we're going to social platforms. Facebook. The biggest problem on the net at the moment is fake news, right? Now, how do social platforms work? They get paid by advertising. Advertising is related to the amount of time. So it's the amount of time that you stick to a site. Okay, so Facebook doesn't care about the truth. They simply care about engagement. They are paid by engagement. And it turns out, when people are pissed, they spend more time on Facebook. Okay, so you heard of clickbait, you heard of blowing things out of all proportion. Well, social platforms magnify this. They magnify it. They make the problem much worse. And so you have a business model that rewards exaggerated truths or non-truths. The dark web, yeah, there's just about everything you want. You can go and buy these days if you've got money. You can buy ransomware kit, you can buy hacked websites, you can buy command and control hosting services that look after botnets. You can buy databases from of the order of dollars. If you want 100,000 credit cards, they go for around about dollars each. You can actually hire people. If you want to hack a system, you don't need to hack anyone. Don't need to do it yourself. You can hire someone who can attack it for you. There are GPUs. The hardware is getting better and better. Governments are even buying vulnerabilities with Bitcoin. All right, and you think governments would be against cybercrime? You think the biggest problem to cyber criminals would be governments? Well, I'm here to tell you they're our friend. They're our greatest friend. The reason why cybercrime is $1 trillion industry is because governments are helping it. Let's just have a look at why. Okay. Government wants to remove encryption. Who's been following the encryption debate? Anybody? Anybody? Completely ridiculous. Okay, because put a backdoor into every system. The good guys will just put another project up on GitHub with a public key encryption system, and you're done. Going dark. So you've heard of Comey or whoever, the head of the FBI, saying, "Oh, we have to remove encryption because the bad guys can mobilize in the secrecy of encryption." Well, it turns out that's not true. Well, it is true, but you and I can go to the park now. We're going to have a private conversation. What are you going to do? You're going to stop private conversations? Is every park now is going to have microphones? Of course not. And basically, in the police world, they have so much surveillance now. There is so much data about every person on this planet. It's like a huge, big TV screen. And encryption is a few black pixels here and there. That's all. That's all. The fact there's a few encrypted enclaves, just to give you a difference between surveillance and actually listening to your conversation. if I was to hire a private investigator, all right, so I suspect Anne I suppose she's my girlfriend and I suspect that she's having a affair on the side, I do a private investigator. The private investigator would not necessarily listen to all her conversations, just needs to follow her, all right? So what she does, where she goes, what time she leaves in the morning, who she meets, the people she meets, the amount of time she spends at a particular place. That's all metadata about what Anne does. I haven't listened to a single conversation, but the metadata will tell you an awful lot about her life. It turns out that on the internet, we have metadata everywhere. The internet mediates everything that we do on the internet. So every time you do anything at all, you leave a data trail. Right? I call it the pollution of the internet. Everything you do is data, more data. But it's mainly metadata, and that's all you need. Okay, so the NSA, when they track phones, they want to know of a meeting. They can tell when two mobile phones meet. They can tell when they disappear. They can also tell when two mobile phones are approaching one another and they turn off. And at some certain time, they turn back on again and disappear from one another. There's an awful lot you can tell about metadata. So this whole thing about encryption is just completely rubbish. And it comes back to that, do you want to make everybody safer? Or do you want to make... Like, bad guys can use a mobile phone. This can be used to trigger a bomb. So let's ban all mobile phones. Is that what the government wants to do? All right. Anyway, silly. Okay, government's doing big... Okay, they're buying vulnerabilities. They're weaponizing them. They're building massive databases. State-sponsored hackers. Okay, so if you look at some of the big hacks in the world and trace them back, there are whole units. I'll pick on China, but it's the same in Russia and it's the same in the Arab states, the same in even the US to some points, South America. Okay, so the way it works is this: the government will know about hackers. And if you're a good hacker, you discover a vulnerability, say in an American corporation, and then you report it one level up. Okay? Now if you report the sites that you're hacking and they're in foreign countries, the government will kind of let you go. They will let you play around. They're watching what you're doing. Now when it goes up to the next level, then these are more a curated set of hackers, and now they decide whether this company is already being broken into. Now there's an entire repertoire. The Fortune top 1,000 companies in the US, for example, they've got a complete list, right? There are lots of hacker groups looking at each of them. They bifurcate the different ones. And if this is a new hack and it's a good hack, and it's potentially something that's valuable, they'll then pass it up to a much more elite set of hackers. These are probably now being run by the Chinese army, and we already know the names of the different groups, same in Russia, and so on. And now they go after APTs, and they go after the corporate secrets. So governments are actually, they start off by ignoring the fact that people are doing bad things on the basis they're getting some benefits. Then they start paying, and now they have the elite squads where they pay a lot. So governments are paying a lot for hackers and building hacking tools. This is great because when you weaponize something and then it leaks out into the rest of the world, it just falls back into the cybercrime. So governments build stuff. The next thing is the cyber criminals. It leaks out. Cyber criminals gets up. It leaks out. Then your every day-to-day script kiddie gets hold of it, and then it gets incorporated into your standard open source attack tools. Governments persecuting security researchers. In the US, in particular, basically, well, it's kind of stupid. If you get convicted under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, okay, so you're suspected of being a terrorist, you've used some computer to promulgate some sort of crime, Now, you might not have, you might be just a security researcher. When it goes to court, they'll look at your behaviour and they'll say, oh, well, this guy goes and finds vulnerabilities, so he must be a hacker. He uses tools of privacy. He uses PGP for all his email, for example. Therefore, he must be hiding something. Oh, the criminal, even though he's doing research, this can be, when it's taken in front of a court, this is equivalent to criminal activity, that he's trawling the dark web looking for things. He's trawling the pornography sites looking for malware, right? These are all things that security researchers do. When it comes to the court, it's presented as this terrible hacker. And then, instead of just normal prosecution, because now it's deemed to be under the national, the national security laws, the crime can be life imprisonment. Now, a murderer or a rapist might get away with 10 years, but someone who breaks into another computer system, right, can get life imprisonment. Right? This is what's going on. And the laws are really badly written. DMCA, this is the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. Anyone know much about it? Anybody? Basically it says, if you reverse engineer a copy protection, I'll send you to jail. Now, if there are errors in the copy protection, you want people to try to break it and then tell Adobe that their DRM doesn't work so they can make it better. But if you even look at it, you can be taken to court under DMCA. All right, let's just look at a few. I want to answer the question, why is security so hard? So I'll break it into three: technical, political, and humans. We could spend a whole other lecture on this, but let me just give you just a few tips. Okay, efficiency to scale. We've already talked about this. Remember, if I'm the pickpocket and I don't do enough pickpocketing, I go broke. But if I can automate my attacks, I'm going to do much better. Technology magnifies power. This is a two-sided street. So the disenfranchised now get a voice on the internet, and so their power gets magnified. So what generally happens when the internet is the nimble groups generally find the internet. They do they get a voice in the world, and they can do something. But governments can also use the internet. Software in the world is just basically saying that everything is software. So basically we have software capturing knowledge. It can be scaled. It can be put in place from anywhere in the world, and everything is becoming software. Okay, why is attack harder than defense? Well, the attacker can attack a single point, just one single point, but the defender has to defend absolutely everything. The bigger the attack surface, the more he's got to defend. You only got to make one tiny mistake, and the attacker's in. It's very hard to be 100% perfect. Mentioned everything is dual use, mentioned skill versus ability. The enemy of security is complexity. Uniformity is an interesting thing. Because everybody is running, say, Microsoft Windows, you find a vulnerability in Microsoft Windows, now you can attack everybody. All right? So because we're all using the same stuff. Anonymity means that you can very easily get away with stuff. Attribution is very, very hard. Proximity means if I want to break into a bank, right? If I find a bank here in Hawthorne, I've got to actually physically go to Hawthorne. If I want to attack an electronic bank somewhere in some other country, it's one mouse click away. On the internet, everything is one mouse click away from everybody else. Okay, political. I mentioned governments, hate them in some ways. Politicians. Okay, so this is kind of weird. I've got two politicians, okay? This politician says, I'm going to spend $1 billion on airport security and make you safer. And this politician says, let's take $1 billion and put it into healthcare and education and things that are good for society, all right? Now, this guy appears to be more courageous. Now, if he gets into power and there was a terrorist attack, he'll go and say, well, I spent $1 billion, but I should have spent $2 billion. I just couldn't get the budget. If this guy gets into power and there's a terrorist attack, then he gets crucified because he didn't do anything. The electorate rewards doing something. Doesn't matter whether something is any good. I mean, just who travels on planes? Planes. Okay, you've been through those body scanners, right? They came in the US, about $1 billion was spent on them. So what they did was, if you had a gun, let's assume this is a gun, and the gun was in your pocket, you would see against the black body a white gun. All right? That's the way it would work, right? So it would stick out. So what was the classic attack, right? You put your gun not against your body. So I'm going to stick my gun here. There it is. There's my gun. Okay? Walk through the body scanner. There's nothing white on black here. Walk around the body scanner and you walk in. Okay? It was a piece of political. It was a piece of security theatre. You know what security theatre is? Anybody? Means security, which is not really security. And why does it work? Well, fundamentally, it's because there is a difference between whether or not we feel secure and we are secure. Okay? If we feel secure, we may not be. Think of Facebook. Yeah, they make you feel good, but actually you're giving stuff away. Or you may be secure, though you don't feel it. The day after 9/11, no one felt safe. Probably that was the best day to travel. In fact, I was in the US 1 year after 9/11, on the, whatever it is, 11th of September. All the airports were empty. I had a plane, I got to sit up the front, business class. Nobody there. Where is everybody? Oh, this is 9/11. You know, everyone's heightened alert for terrorist. I said, this is the safest day you could possibly travel right at the moment. Nobody's going to do anything on the anniversary, right? But people are scared. When people are scared, they do silly things. After 9/11, what happens? Draconian laws were brought in, take away your privacy, take away your, spend billions of dollars on order of magnitude. US spends $200 billion a year on anti-terrorist activities. $200 billion. How many people die in the US? About 1,000 a year from terrorists. They spend $2 billion on their police force. That's got to do road toll where 30,000 people died. It's got to do gun deaths, 30,000 people died. 200 billion, 2 billion, 100 people, 60, 80, 90,000 people dying. Right? We've got it all wrong. And yet, what is the electorate reward? People who are going to stop terrorism. Well, relatively speaking, it's statistically insignificant compared to the number of people that are dying. Statistically insignificant compared to the money being spent. They just spend $200 billion on education and healthcare and things like that. All right. Okay. Politicians, they get rewarded for doing the wrong things. Businesses, well, they don't care. They just do the minimum, whatever it is, take money, produce products that are crap, right? Because the market rewards first. Cheap. That's what they do. Business models, they in the old days you had feudal systems, right? A feudal system. Feudal system means that I allege my allegiance to the king, and the king goes and protects me. I pay taxes to the king, and the king protects me. Think about basic society. That's the way society works. Society says, I'm going to be a good citizen, and the government is going to protect me from bad guys, right? Police force and what have you. Well, it's the same sort of thing in the internet world. Facebook, you sign up to Facebook, Facebook's going to look after you, right? It's going to give you something in return, and you're going to obey all the Facebook rules. And so you're having these kind of feudal systems in which you're pledging your allegiance to the king. If it's the Facebook king, it's the Facebook king. You'll do whatever it is the Facebook king says. If you don't want to, you just drop out and you become a citizen somewhere else. But people want things for free. Tools for power. So has anyone come across content filtering, data leak prevention software? Anyone heard of it? Anyone? So basically what happens inside a corporation, you have a proxy. And the proxy is funneling all the machines in the internet through this one machine in the outside world. And the idea is it's trying to detect people that are emailing out sensitive documents, for example. Right? It's called data leak prevention, or content inspection. Well, it's actually a type of censorship, because if you think about it, this content inspection thing could have rules that says, well, things that are political in nature, things that are religious the nature of stop. So it turns out that for everything that you think's wrong in the political world, like propaganda, in the commercial world, we call it marketing. In the political world, we call it surveillance. Over here, we call it personalisation. If you want to only let certain applications run, here we call it curation. So think about the App Store. So it turns out that the business models are doing all sorts of things that people don't like governments doing. Okay, humans. God, where do I start here? This is a whole subject in itself. Let's just start off with who's heard of Prisoner's Dilemma? Prisoner's Dilemma? Anybody come across it? Okay, so the idea is two brothers have committed a crime, they get taken into the police station, they get put in different cells. The police come up with a story and they say, okay, it could be brothers, could be friends, could be anybody. It says, okay, you get 1 year if you say nothing. You get scot-free if you dob your other party in. You get 10 years if the other party dobs you in. So, the way it works is, if you do the right thing and you both say nothing, you get a year. If one guy does the right thing and says nothing, but the other guy dobs him in, he gets free, he gets 10 years. But if he dobs the other guy in, and if you both dob one another in, you get 5 years. Right? So it's stacked against you. It's stacked in a way that you want to betray, for your self-interest, you want to betray the group interest. Okay, so I'll give you a better example. Okay, so this is software subject, software evolution, and whatever. Okay, so here's the way it's going to work. I've got an assignment for you. Your assignment is